Yeah, good. Thank you.
Excellent. Hello, Rajesh.
Hi, Rajesh. I was having some internet issues. I don't know why.
Internet.
Yeah, one of my computers. I mean, I don't know. The one
Okay.
I used to record these.
Is it okay?
Yeah, it's I'm using another one, so it's okay now.
You have a whole lab.
Yeah. Surface Pro and everything else.
He's a big proponent of non-Apple products, right, Rajesh?
Yeah.
Well, some of us are Microsoft.
Yeah. I like both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
both are fine. I mean, it's just that one charges you for just nothing, and then they make a big deal of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember paying millions for Microsoft product fees. It's amazing. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, just 30 more seconds. We can get started. Okay, so we can get started. It's 5.
सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Welcome back. One more Sunday, and we are reaching to the final topic of the second chapter. But before that, let me take a moment and offer our prayers and good wishes and prayers to everybody impacted. And I would like to pray for everybody who has lost the job also, because last week so many people told me that they lost their job. So let's pray for everybody, and I'm sure the situation will change soon. So with that, let's go to the final topic of the second chapter. As I was explaining earlier, if you're determined to study only one chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the chapter you would choose is the chapter 2, because chapter 2 provides an overview of all the topics covered in the Bhagavad Gita. Typically, it serves as the purpose of an index All the topics are not in detailed, but at least it touches almost all the topic, because chapter 3 to 17 is in fact an elaboration of the topics discussed in chapter 2. Because if you think about the organization of the Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter is the problem statement, second chapter is the summary of the entire approach, 3 to 17 is an elaboration of the topics covered in chapter 2, and 18 is a recap. So this is how the whole Bhagavad Gita is organized. So if you really look at an executive writing course in the modern times, typically you see that initially you are supposed to start with a purpose, and then you have to have, means you need to introduce that topic in a paragraph. And then thereafterwards, each paragraph will elaborate each point mentioned in that introduction. And finally, you have to have a conclusion, which is essentially a recap of the entire book. So this is exactly what, if you go to an executive presentation, because there is executive presence, executive writing, there are so many courses, which is essential. If you go and study any of these courses, you can see the same style. And that is the structure used in the Bhagavad Gita. So when you look at the second chapter, because I would like you to have a clear understanding of the structure of the second chapter. The first 10 verses of the second chapter is again a recap of the problem statement. What exactly is the problem we are addressing? We discuss that in detail because it is not a particular problem at a particular time. It is a basic problem of the human mind. The basic problem of the human mind is that it is subjected to sorrow. It is subjected to extreme emotional disturbances. It is means as a result, it cannot face the challenge in front of us. And in modern psychology, we call it as learned helplessness. This is a typical problem of the human mind that is very clearly, brilliantly discussed in the first 10 verses. And from verse 11 to 36, Krishna tells what exactly is the solution for this problem. So he tells, means the only solution for this problem is you need to understand the real nature of yourself. When you don't understand who you are, means you will take yourself as something else. You will get identified yourself with your thoughts, emotions, and feelings. And as a result, it will be very difficult for you to overcome that. And it is very difficult for you to face that. So that solution is described in 3 different angles. The first angle or the predominant discussion was from verse 11 to 30, which is based upon a spiritual solution. So within the spiritual solution itself, we saw that the whole topic is discussed, means identifying the 3 dimensions of a living being. We saw that a living being can have 3 dimensions. One is a physical dimension, a subtle dimension, and there is an absolute dimension. And that physical dimension is called as the physical body, and the subtle dimension is called the so-called soul or the subtle body, and the absolute dimension is called Atma. And that Atma is changeless, it is birthless, it is deathless, and it is not subjected to change at all. Nobody can destroy that Atma. And there is only one Atma for the entire universe. And that is your real nature. And we use that dream analogy also to explain this in clarity. So this is what it is. So when you identify with your real nature, you will be able to get that enormous strength to face the challenges in the world outside. Then what we saw was the same point is discussed from 2 different angles. One is from verse 31 to 33. 3 verses Krishna explained this from a dharmic angle. And then from 33 to 36, he explained this in a laukika drishti, which is a worldly point of view. So in these 3 angles, he explained what exactly is the solution. And verse 37, he summarized the whole topic. And then from verse 38 to 53, he jumped into the second topic, because it is easy for anybody to give a solution. This is the prescription. But that prescription is not available anywhere. How can I change it? Or how can I use it? So that's why from verse 38 to 53, the prescription is explained. It is known as yoga. So he introduced something called yoga as a means for gaining the self-knowledge. It is a means by which you can, by step process, you can understand your true nature. And the goal of the yoga is very clearly defined. The yoga itself is very clearly defined. And the benefits of the yoga is defined. And what is not yoga is defined. And also Krishna explained the misinterpretation of the scriptures, why people are means you misusing the scriptures. And also he put the point that the value of the scriptures is only to give this knowledge. There is no other value than this. By giving a brilliant example, like once you gain this knowledge, the Veda becomes Aveda. It doesn't have much significance. And the famous Karma Yoga verse is given on verse 47, which is Karmani evaha adhikaraha tve ma phaleshu kadajana ma karma phalahi durbhuhu ma te sangustva karmani. So in this verse, Krishna defined as the choice or the control given to me is only in the action, not on the results. So that is the first 2 points. And then third thing is that you never have any direct control over the results. The control you have is only on the actions, which indirectly contribute to the results. That's it. So that is the third point. And finally, since you do not have any direct control over the results, do not get attached to the inaction. When you get attached to the inaction, what is going to happen? You cannot produce the result at all. So this is brilliant, and I talked quoted several several books and authors to see that how relevant it is in the modern management. And then we saw the 3 popular definitions of yoga. On verse 48, we saw that samatvam yoga uchyate, the equanimity of the mind is yoga. The ability to keep the mind in a stable state is yoga. That is what the first thing. And the second definition we saw was on verse 50 as yogaha karmasu kaushalam. The skillful action is yoga. Means skill here it has two dimensions. One is the discretion on action. What action you need to do? What should be your priority? What action you should not do? What action you should do? What action you should avoid? All those details has to be there. And the second thing is, while you perform your action, you should have the maximum efficiency. You should be in a state of flow. So that is your efficiency in action, whereas and discretion of action. So this is the second definition of the yoga. And verse 53, Krishna said, when the mind is stable in a well-placed state, because it is not extremely high, not extremely low. Samadhi, a state which is extremely stable and contented. That state is what is called yoga. So these are the 3 definitions given by Krishna. So this is the third major topic. First is problem statement. Second is what is the solution. The third one is how the solution can be achieved, yoga. So after giving these 3 topics, Arjuna had a doubt, which most of us had. Like, what is the characteristics of a man who has realized this truth? Is he going to be completely indifferent to the world? Is he going to be running away from the world? What exactly is the characteristics of a sthita prajna? Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshavaha sthita tihim prabhashena kimasita vrajetahim. What exactly is the description of or identification or the characteristics of a person who has realized this truth, and how he is going to interact with the world outside? That was Arjuna's question. And that's the answer to that is the next 18 verse. And that is going to be the final topic of the second chapter. Any question on this topic? I just summarized the entire verse up to 54 in almost 9 minutes. Is it clear? Very good. So let's move on. So the question is, Krishna is going to start explaining who is a sthita prajna, or let's try to understand this in detail. Before I go to the verses, like Krishna tells who is sthita prajna, right? That was Arjuna's question was. Sthita meaning what? Stable, right? Sthiti meaning stability, or that state. It's a stative verb, right? Because in verbs you have action verb and stative verb. So this shows a state of an individual. And what type of individual? He is prajnaha. Jnaha means the one who has knowledge. Prajna means praharshena. Praharshena means it's a special kind of knowledge. And what is that special kind of knowledge? It is the knowledge about himself. So one who has stable, clear understanding about himself. That is the person you're talking here. A person who understood himself completely. A person who has realized the truth. That person, what is his characteristics? And that is what is Krishna is going to explain. And I told you, right, this is considered as one of the greatest literary work in the universe. So many people, not just Indians, around the world has praised this literature. And as per Mahatma Gandhi, in his commentary called Anasakti Yoga, his commentary on Gita is called Anasakti Yoga. He praises these verses. This was his most favorite verses of the Bhagavad Gita, these 18 verses. And he mentioned that there is nothing in the world literature which can be even compared to this. That was his confidence on these verses. And you can see these verses were praised by everybody, right from Vivekananda of the East, Paramahamsa Yogananda, almost everybody who learned Gita. You can see that these verses are so dear to him. Like Subramanya Bharati of Tamil Nadu and Rajagopalachari, all these people were so much impressed by these verses. So let's try to understand what exactly is this verse. But before I get into the verse, I wanted to tell you one more thing, right? So one means here Krishna is going to talk about, in the previous verses, he was talking about a yogi. Now he has talking about a person who has realized. So there we need to understand two words here. One is called sadhaka, other one is called siddha. Anybody knows the difference between these two words in Sanskrit? Most of you heard of these words, sadhaka and siddha. Any?
Who's trying?
Correct.
Trying?
Yes. Sadhaka means a person who is committed to this path, but he has not reached the destination. So a karma yogi is what? He is a sadhaka. But once he does the karma yoga, what happens? What is the immediate benefit of karma yoga? I already talked about that. Or the yoga. One is chitta shuddhi, and the second one is chitta sthiti, right? The purity of the mind and the stability of the mind. With that, when he pursue knowledge, what is going to happen? He will become a jnani, right? So we need to understand there are three categories of people. One is called a bhogi, and the second one is called a yogi, and the third one is called a jnani. So bhogi means one who has not even realized an importance or priority of this. He thinks that by getting that promotion or by getting this house or that car or getting this property or making this much money, I will be completely freed from all the sufferings. So his idea is materialistic. His idea is by acquiring and possessing, right? You can have that complete peace and happiness. And for him, this study is a waste of time. And that person is called as bhogi because his eye is always on the material world. Whereas the yogi is a different person. And a bhogi also may means talk about God. For what? The bhogi may seek the help of the God for gaining bhogas. For example, if his promotion is his goal, he will go and pray to Lord, oh Lord, give me that promotion. So for him, Ishvara is a means for gaining that material benefit. And whereas a yogi means he is slightly different. He may still seek the material world, but with a different understanding. That is the difference. Because for a bhogi, his ultimate goal is, his belief is that by getting this objects or this promotion or that object, I'll be happy and contented. A jnani and a bhogi still, means yogi still may seek this material profession, but they know that by gaining that, I will not gain that absolute happiness. For that, I have a different goal also. So it's not that you have to understand. When we say yogi and a jnani, they are not leaving the world and going away. They may still work, they may earn the money, they may achieve promotion, but they know that even if I become the CEO of the company, or even if I get $1 billion, means my sufferings will not end there. So he is trying with a different goal. That is the only difference. So now we talked about the bhogi, yogi, and a jnani. What is the difference between a yogi and a jnani? The yogi knows that I need to do karma yoga, right? So that is his goal. He's committed to karma yoga. How he is committed to karma yoga? He makes sure that his action, the selection of the action, is in line with the goals of or the law of the karma yoga. And he knows that, okay, when I perform the action, I need to put that as Ishwararpidam, right? Means I need to dedicate that to a higher cause. And when I get the result, I need to get that as like a prasada of the Ishwara. So it is only from that knowledge and commitment he is doing. It means he has not reached the final destination yet. So since he has not reached the final destination yet, right, there is subjected to sorrow sometimes. For example, like when you go and start your car, if that car is not starting, of course he will say, okay, it is your wish, God, he will say that. But imagine if he is diagnosed with a terminal disease. It's not easy, right? Let's be practical. It is not easy. So even if you're a karma yogi, right, there are certain situations in life, it will be difficult for you to see that as a prasada. Whereas once you gain that knowledge, you will be completely resilient to all these situations. A jnani may be recognized with a terminal disease, or he may win a lottery, right? So it is okay. He handles everything properly because he has discovered his existence beyond this world, right? So I gave this example the other day. In a dream, right? In a dream, what happened? If you are diagnosed with a terminal disease, if you are in that dream, within the dream time and space, when you hear that news, it will be the devastating news for you. Even if you are the best devotee in the world, you might be suffering in that world. But if that dream becomes a lucid dream, I already explained what is a lucid dream. Lucid dream means in that dream, you know that you are dreaming. So in that lucid dream, if you hear the same news, you are not that much worried. You have that strength to face that. So the difference between a bhogi is the bhogi thinks that in that dream world, if I win a lottery, I'm secure and I'm complete. Whereas a yogi knows that, okay, there is an identity outside of this world. I need to realize that identity. So I need to put some effort. So he's doing the effort, but he has not yet reached the destination. So a yogi is a sadhaka, whereas a bhogi is a bhogi. He is not worrying about anything. And means jnani, the one who has achieved the chitta shuddhi and chitta sthiti, and through the practice of knowledge, he has realized his potential. He becomes completely resilient. And here we are talking about that jnani, even one beyond yogi. But one thing you need to be careful, right? Now you may ask me, right? What is the point of studying this? Because none of us, including the speaker, are not jnanis. All of us can be maximum categorized as yogis. So what is the value for us to study this? Here you have to understand, Shankaracharya brilliantly explains this, why this is important to these seekers. See, what comes natural for a jnani should be emulated by the yogi. This is what happens, right? So this is the characteristics of the jnani. This is how a sthita prajna is going to behave. And for me and you, we are not at sthita prajna, but we can strive as much as possible to be that sthita prajna. It is not inherent in us. We are committing for it, but it is not inherent to us. So that's the difference. What comes to jnani as natural is a conscious effort for a yogi, because the yogi has to consciously understand that what action I need to do, how should I perform action, when I get the result, what should be my response, how should I make sure that I'm not subjected to these pressures and the pains. Whereas for a jnani, it is natural. Hope this point is clear, because I just wanted to make sure that this is a fine distinction, but you need to understand that.
So Rajaji, I had a question about this.
Please.
On a practical level, like if there is a death in the family, or if there is a terrible tragedy, right? It's very natural, even if somebody is a yogi and a seeker, for him to lose balance and to lose composure.
Absolutely.
So how can you emulate a jnani in challenging times?
No, you are not saying that you should not be sad. Point number one, right? So you cannot be, means it is just giving the point that, yes, when a death is happening or when you win a lottery, it is, even if you're a yogi, you may get elated or you may fall down. First of all, Gita is assuring that that is natural. You're not doing anything mistake, right?
Mm.
So that is point number one. Because if you think that it is my problem, a lot of people tell me that meditation, they cannot concentrate. Nobody can concentrate in the meditation. So when you realize that, it gives you a little bit more convenience. Second thing is that you need to understand that, okay, look at that person, right? So typically what happens, you always have a model, role model in the society. You look upon that role model, how he is handling. When a tragedy happens, it is going to give you some tips and tricks. That is why, because when you look at Rama, when you look at all these great personalities, Rama and all, it is in Purana. But even in the modern world, you can see some people, how resilient they are. I can give you hundreds of examples in the modern world. They may not be knowing Bhagavad Gita, but they will show some great resilience in them. So just try to improve upon that. That's it. This is not to say that you should be doing. This is just a standard. It's a frame of reference. It's a point of reference. That's it. You may fall down, but the promise is, if you try to do karma yoga, right? They say like three things Krishna tells, or the Shankaracharya tells. First one is, like, typically a bhogi, how many times he get agitated or he fall down, the number of times it's high, the frequency is going to be very high. FIR, just remember this, FIR is the code word. First is frequency. The moment you committed to yoga, you can see that the frequency will come down. That means the time you get lose your mental balance. Frequency will naturally come down. Earlier, the coffee, if it is too hot, you may get upset. Right now, you can take it as a coffee or tea, right? That's number one. And then you can see that at work, means earlier, anything happens at work, it would create a huge disturbance in you. The more you practice this karma yoga, you see that, okay, that pressure also coming down. And you will, step by step, you will progress. So frequency, the second one is the intensity. Like, once you get it, earlier, okay, you may get, means even if the coffee is hot, you may get agitated. But earlier, means I'm just making it up. Let's say that earlier you got like an anger of 30, scale 30. Now it might be 10 or even less. So the intensity will come down. And the third one is what? Recovery. Like earlier, once you get into this anger, it may take 2 hours, you will be angry. Nobody even dare to look at you. Right now, means that frequency also will be reduced. So this is what it is. This is just the technique. And mind you, like, just profile yourself now before the practice of yoga. And if you practice this karma yoga and mindfulness, and you will see this. And if you don't believe me, go and read the Search Inside Yourself, the book I've been quoting a lot in the last few weeks. Hundreds of stories are given. Hundreds of stories are given. How this can be, actually I forgot, I'll post that in the group. I read a book by a CEO, actually, not the book I mentioned last week, but there is a new book. There is a person who created history and this is one of the best business book or the management book you can read. In that book also, you can see the same idea is quoted. So this is the three things, FIR, keep that in mind. So that is what we are staying here, and we are trying to improve one step at a time. And our goal is always this. And this is one more problem is there, right? So typically what happens, people look at their gurus, every organization. I'm not quoting any guru outside, meaning every organization has this problem. Typically means if it is a Vivekananda, or if it is Swami Dayananda, or if it is Swami Chinmayananda, or Ramad Hershey, all their devotees, what they do, they try to emulate their guru. But one thing you need to be very careful, Shankaracharya tells, when you emulate, most of the times people emulate what? Their hairstyle, maybe their dressing style, or what they eat. For example, I know that Swami Dayananda used to drink a lot of coffee. So if I also start drinking a lot of coffee, is that going to change my knowledge level? You need to emulate their thinking, their vision, not the actual dressing and everything. And I see one more thing, not to criticize or just take it as a fun perspective. Means I don't know whether I mean, people who know Swami Dayananda, you see that his hair is always covered by his cloth. And look at most of his disciples. You can see they also cover their hair with that clothes. So this is very important. You need to emulate the teacher in their thinking, not in their physical dressing or like the way they, means what they eat, what they do not eat, etc. So that's very important. Shankaracharya calls this out. That's why I said. And I have seen so many examples. And some people even, means even some disciples may talk exactly in the tone of the Guru also. That is also emulation. Okay. These are a couple of side topics I just wanted to mention because this is very important to understand. One more thing, just to add a little bit more thought to that story. I just remember there is a Japanese story, like I think it is the Buddhistic story. Like once a guru and the disciple went to a seashore, and everybody was sitting meditating there, and the disciple saw that this guru suddenly went up to the ocean and he caught a few fishes and he just swallowed all the fishes. What is the disciple thought? He thought that this guy is a vegetarian. Okay, that is number one. Okay, so since guru is eating, we can also eat fish. I'm not saying that eating fish is bad or not. I'm just trying to do an example. So then Guru ate these fishes and he just came back and lie down on the shore. This is a Buddhistic story. So then what happened? As soon as the Guru went to sleep, all these disciples also went up to sea. They caught so many fishes and they chopped them and they put all these masalas and everything, and they put a good fish fry and had a great meal. The next day morning, what happened? The Guru woke up. Immediately he went up to the ocean and he just pulled all these fishes from his stomach and let them go. In fact, he was treating the fishes. And now he asked all these disciples, now you also let all these fishes go. So this is the problem with the blind following. You need to emulate Krishna. You need to emulate Jesus. You need to emulate Muhammad, or you need to emulate all these great masters, but not by their look and feel, not exactly the way what they are doing, but you have to emulate their thinking, what exactly they were doing, right? Because see, imagine that Jesus was talking to the fishermen of Galilee, and Buddha was talking to an intellectual set of people. Krishna was dealing with a set of kings, or at that point of time. So you cannot just emulate what they have done. Krishna danced with all the gopis. So if I also go and start dancing with all the gopis, is that going to make me self-realized? That's what you have to think through, right? These are typical misinterpretation of the scriptures. So that's, you need to understand. Makes sense, right? Excellent.
Absolutely, Rajaji.
Let's go to the verse. So Anu, why don't you chant?
Shri Bhagavan Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Parthamanogataan Atmanyevatmana Tushtaha Sthita Prajnasadochyate.
So the first definition of Sthita Prajna, mind you, who is Sthita Prajna? You have clarity, right? Anybody? Who is Sthita Prajna? Means I tried to explain that.
Gyani.
What is?
Gyani.
Sorry, again, two people. Mahesh, what is that? What is your comment?
I said it is stable mind, the person with the stable mind.
Yeah, but one more definition, right?
Stable. And self-realized, who understands himself.
Exactly. A person whose understanding on himself is stable. That is stable. Of course, stable mind is a characteristic, but he knows who he is.
Rajesh, just one clarification.
Yeah.
So when you say Sthita Prajna, then is it like literally we are referring to a Jnani?
Absolutely. This is Jnani. That's what I was trying to differentiate, because up until now we were talking about yogi. From verse 38 to 53, we were talking about a yogi, and that is why I differentiated between sadhaka and siddha. Sadhaka means the one who is committed to the path, who has undertaken the journey, but he has not yet reached the destination. Whereas Siddha means he has accomplished, he reached the destination. So these 18 verses are talking about a person who has realized the truth, a person who has reached the destination. And all these behaviors are natural characteristics of that person. So Sthita Prajna, Shankaracharya brilliantly defines it as a person, man of self-realization. So,
Thank you.
so the difference, that's why we need to understand that very clearly, because up to verse 53, it is a yogi who is a practitioner. Now, the one who has accomplished his practice, he has reached his destination, like a Krishna or a Jesus or a Buddha. So you need to be very careful, because what you're seeing in these 18 verses are not easy to accomplish. It is the highest. It's not very easy. That's why I wanted to make that distinction very clear. This is our ultimate destination, and that's what it is. So this clarity is very important here. Okay. Ornabji, you had a question?
No, I was just saying, I was saying Jnani. So,
Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. So, Sri Bhagavan Vacha. What does that indicate? Often you see in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Bhagavan Vacha.
that's
Started telling.
the Lord speaking.
Yeah, it didn't say Krishna Vacha. Because other verses you can see Sanjaya Vacha or Arjuna Vacha. In Mahabharata, you can see a lot of other characteristics. So, Sri Bhagavan Vacha. So Sri Bhagavan, so a special status is given to Krishna, right? Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Vaja. Bhagavan is, who is Bhagavan? The one who is the absolute Lord of the universe. The one is, it is not Mr. Krishna. It is something bigger than Mr. Krishna. Mr. Krishna is an incarnation of that Bhagavan in the universe, right? So here we are talking about that Lord of the universe, which we call by different name, whether it is a Father in heaven or an Allah or a Brahman or the reality. So that Krishna with his identity means completely identifying as a self-realized master. He's talking. That's why Sri Bhagavan Vacha. That's very important. And you need to understand, because he's not talking with the capacity as Mr. Krishna. He's talking the capacity in his capacity as the Lord of the universe. And that is why, like when like Father in heaven tells something, that's also in that capacity. When Allah means, you can call it as Allah, you can call it as Father in heaven, you can call it as Buddha state of consciousness. Any name, like you can call in different name, but the absolute reality is only one. So that Bhagavan spoke these verses. What? Prajahadi yada kaman sarvan partha manogadan. So the first sentence here is Sri Bhagavan Vaja. Sri Bhagavan said. And then the second sentence, yada tada. That is a typical use of Sanskrit. Yada means when. Prajahadi, cast off or give up, right? When somebody can give up, what? Sarvat means everything, not without any exception. Partha means kaman manogatan. Kaman here means binding desire. There is a difference between binding desires and non-binding desires. Nobody is saying that you just remove all the desires. It's impossible. It is impossible for even for a jnani to remove all the desires. It is impossible. But what is being asked to go beyond is the binding desires. So far we discussed a lot between what is a binding desire and what is an unbinding desire. Anybody can make an attempt? What is a binding desire? What is an unbinding desire?
Unbinding desire is something that you do with chitta shuddhi and chitta sthiti.
Correct. But the simple definition is you're not
If it is
emotionally dependent on that particular desire, right? So let's say that you're loving your child. Let's say that means you love your child. and you want that child means to, for example, that is an unbinding desire if you love the child. But if you love the child and if the child is not calling you back, if you are extremely upset, that means it is a binding desire. Binding desire means you are expecting a particular outcome. It's not that you are not expecting a particular outcome. You are dependent on a particular outcome. That is the difference. Everybody has to expect an outcome. Whatever action you do, you have to expect a result. And you have to plan for a result. But if that result is not happening, if that is going to make you mentally unstable, that is called a binding desire, right? So if you, yeah.
Sorry, Rajesh, I was just going to ask that aren't all desires binding implicitly?
Not at all. Like that is what you are trying to get away. Because if a desire is binding, what does that mean? So suppose you are trying for a promotion. Let's take that simple example, harmless example. First of all, there is nothing wrong in planning for that promotion. Let's say that you are a director. You wanted to become a vice president. So of course, what is the desire? I want to become a vice president. So you are taking a set of activities. You are going to improve your knowledge. You started taking new responsibilities. You applied for the post. You were called in for an interview. You did your best. You prepared everything. But what happened? You know the corporate ladder, how it works. Sometimes it is not just your skill. Sometimes what happens? You didn't get that promotion, even though you performed well, or something happens in between, you couldn't perform well. Whatever is the cause, you didn't get that result. Is that going to put your mental state into an uncontrolled state? Of course, a little bit pain and pressure will come. But if that is going to take your mental state into a disturbing state, that means it is a binding state. Is that going to be helpful? First of all, if that desire is binding, when you act, when you try for that result, naturally you would have two characteristics. Look at the emotional intelligence book by Daniel Goleman. He tells, whenever you are driven with a binding desire, when you perform that action, you cannot achieve your flow. It's impossible because your mind is not 100% on the action, because a portion of the mind will be anxious, a portion of the mind will be worried, right? So when that emotions overpower your ability to perform, naturally you may not get it. So that is the problem. So the problem means when you are obsessed with a particular result, it is going to affect your performance while you're performing the action. B, when you get the result, you cannot take the result. See, first of all, you didn't get that promotion. What is the point? Tell me one thing. What is the point in getting upset and obsessed and going and drinking and just drowning yourself, or saying that, okay, this is, I'm good for nothing, and I'm going to make a, what is that? An explanatory style, which is pessimistic. What is going to happen? Such a person will not face the life. See, Seligman defined success as what? Ability to face failure. It means equanimity, with equanimity. So the moment you have that binding desire means I'm going to say that my well-being is entirely dependent upon this outcome. Please understand that if you're keeping your well-being something outside, if you're keeping your well-being where you do not have complete control, you are putting yourself into failure. A famous scriptural example is if you make 5 kittens in one line. So you keep the 5 kitten, first kitten, second kitten. By the time you keep the 5th kitten, what happens? The first kitten is gone.
First one moves.
So what happens? I define as a state of happiness, as a state of well-being, as what? I need to have this much financial stability. I should have this much healthy stability. I should have this much of relationship stability. I should have this much of emotional stability. All these put together, right? It means 5 different conditions are there. Means you should have a sense of accomplishment, you should have the financial stability, you should have relationship stability, you should have XYZ stability. This is your conditions for happiness. And what happens? You will try, naturally, you have to try to align all these five. But what happens? The good old joke. As a student, you had enough time, wonderful health, but no money. While you work, what is going to happen? You have money, you have health. What is the problem?
No time.
No time. When you retire, the final stage, you have money, you have time. What is the problem?
Health.
No health.
No.
So it's like a triangle, right? It's a like once, if you change one, the other is going to be disturbed. So as long as you are dependent upon anything external, so that's why Krishna later says, if you cannot find that happiness here and now, even in this corona situation, you cannot find that happiness tomorrow. It's impossible.
But Rajesh, what's the solution? We keep on searching, hankering after these pursuits all our life anyway.
Right. So practice, see, the solution is what is given earlier, right? So now we are, means that's why I took the exception earlier. What we are giving is the man of Sthita Prajna, self-realized master. We are just saying that what is the characteristics of the Sthita Prajna. And what is our solution? Our solution is practice Karma Yoga immediately now here. The Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga practice. And you will see that problem gradually decreasing. 100% guarantee. See, I can take myself as the example. I can take like 10 years back or 15 years back, what used to get me upset and now what makes me upset. It is a lot of difference. And even this corona, I feel that I'm completely blessed and happy because there are a set of meditations which I would gradually give to Gina, because these meditations are, there's a gratitude meditation. There is also like how to heal yourself from all these pains. This is part of Upasana Yoga. So if you practice Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, you will see that Sarvan Parthamanogadan, the one who cast away all the binding desires from his mind. He is not controlled by the binding desires. How? Why? He's saying, Atmani eva Atmana tushtaha Sthita Prajnasya tada uchyate. So why? Because he is already find the peace that passes all understanding, if I borrow the words of Bible. So the peace that passes all understanding, the peace means it is that infinite reservoir of happiness he has tapped into, because the ultimate source of happiness is what? It is within. So he had reached that happiness. So this pretty happiness and problems is not a problem for him. Even though he may strive, he may work hard, but means if he do not get what he is trying to get, it is not going to make him upset. So why? The reason is explained. Atmani eva. He finds his source of happiness in himself. When the source of happiness is within himself, he has control. But if I'm dependent upon Arnabji showing up the class for the well-being of this class, I may subject to failure. You may decide not to come. Then what is going to happen? I'm putting the key of my happiness in your pocket. This is a famous word Swami Chinmayananda used to say. Don't put the key of your happiness. Don't put the key of your happiness in somebody else's pocket. Have that in your hand. And it is not easy, right? As I said, like
very difficult.
Yeah, very difficult. But a karma yogi means when you practice, that is what you are gaining as benefit. So karma yogi is also subjected to vulnerability. He has vulnerability. He is not there. But when somebody reaches this jnani position, he is completely free from all these problems, because he do not have any binding desires. And when he do not have any binding desires, what is going to happen. Why he do not have a binding desires? Because he is Atmani eva Atmana tushtaha. Atmani eva. Because he's only in Atma, only in inner happiness he is dependent upon. Authentic Happiness, the classic book. Anybody had a chance to read that book? Please read, because you will see the same truth is retold in the terms of modern psychology. The positive psychology clearly explains there are three types of happiness. One is what means the happiness that born out of the pleasure. Second type of happiness is what? The happiness when you do something you love to do, right? The flow, the happiness that generates from the flow. And the third one is the happiness when you committed to that higher self in you, the higher purpose of life. And Seligman tells that is the only happiness that can withstand. It is, this conclusion was arrived through a different path, but it is pointing to the same truth. Because if you're dependent upon an external happiness, the reason why I'm quoting one book after the other is just to show that whatever Krishna said 5,000 years back, that is being retold by the positive psychology. Because this positive means, if you think 1960, means I'm doing a course, means a specialization course on positive psychology. So I was so amazed because Seligman himself, anybody wants to do, you can go to Coursera. There is a beautiful course, Foundations of Positive Psychology. This course is taught by Seligman himself. It's a brilliant course because you will understand a lot of Vedantic topic, means from the light of modern psychology through that. It's amazing course. Even in that course, you will see exactly the same level. So this is what it is. So here we are talking the ultimate person who is who is the ultimate level, absolute level. That type of a jnani, what is his characteristics? The first one is he do not have any binding desires. He may laugh, he may sing, he may do all that things. He may cry also. But when he cries, the difference is what? He is crying. When he may get angry, but the difference is he has anger. Whereas when I get angry, what happens? Anger has me. You see the difference? There is a huge difference. What is the difference between I am sad and the sadness has me? And what is the difference between I getting angry and this anger has me?
Your
I think one is
identity
just
changes.
an
Yeah.
You become the anger, you become the sadness, you become the emotion.
What happens then? I will do something for which I regret. Have you had this experience? Anybody married would have had that experience, right? When you fight
Frequently to be proud of.
Yeah, sometimes with your arguments with the spouse, means I'm not picking on the spouse, but that is the most common place of this type of argument sometimes, because natural, because you are living with that person 24/7 and you are two different individuals, right? So when you get angry, what is going to happen? Like when the angers completely go out of your hand, what you speak and what you do, is that in par with your dignity and standard? Just look at yourself.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Anybody challenging me?
Not a
Everybody
chance.
has to have this experience, right? So you might be a saint in the world outside, but Vivekananda said anybody can be a saint when the situations are in control. But when you are in this extreme state of agitation and anger, how do you behave? That shows your maturity. And as everybody is subjected to failure here, except Sthita Prajna. Sthita Prajna is not subjected to failure here because he do not have the binding desires. He has the unbinding desires, but that's okay. He may strive for it. He may like do everything better than in the third chapter Krishna tells. He means when you look at him, it may appear that okay, for that promotion he may try more than you do. But the difference between you, me, and him is that what? You and I, if you don't get the promotion, the next 5 days will not be coming out of the bed. But the Sthita Prajna, it is very, very easy to overcome that. That is the resilience we are talking. First of all, I know that you all agree with me that this is not easy to accomplish because you're talking about the noblest. You're talking about the highest. It is not easy to accomplish. But don't you all agree that this is the ultimate state of the human evolution?
Absolutely.
That's what we should be driving for. So once again, that's why I said like these verses are amazing. Prajahadi yada kaman sarvan partha manogadan. Prajahadi means cast away or give up. Yada, when. Kaman here means binding desires. Sarvan partha manogadan. And any binding desires. Partha manogadan. Any binding desires that pop up in the mind. Why? That is also explained. Atmani eva, only in self. Atmana tushtaha. He's so much contented with his Atma or the self, and only he is contented with Atma. Sthita prajna tato uchyate. That person, sthita prajna, tada uchyate, yada tada, that is a grammatical usage. Sthita prajna, that person is said to have stable knowledge about himself. Uchyate, it is said. So in the first verse itself, Krishna gives one of the most beautiful and lovely definition of the Sthita Prajna. Is it clear? And so I try to explain this from meaning breaking every word, because these 18 verses we will, even if it takes a little bit time, we'll go in this piece. We'll try to understand everything, at least theoretically we understand this is what is the destination. So this is the absolute level definition of a Sthita Prajna. What was the first question? Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava, right? That was Arjuna's question. So Krishna is answering. Can you imagine this was written 5,000 years back?
Amazing. Yeah.
Amazing, right? Look at the 1960s. I was reading Seligman, the first lecture. If you go to that course on positive psychology, the first lecture he tells, when he wanted to do this, because he wanted to make sure that people are naturally happy, this happiness is programmed into him. He looked at all the available sciences. There was nothing which is means talking about this possibility. And that is why he invented positive psychology. And of course, I'm not saying that positive psychology is this. Positive psychology is a small step in this direction. That's it. So look at the depth we had 5,000 years back. Amazing. This is what the Gita is. This is what our scriptures are. And this is what we need to discover in Gita and emulate in our life. Okay. So let's...
Nadaji, just wanted to mention, incidentally, I just went to Coursera. I checked out the course.
Yep.
This course is starting today.
No, it starts every week. So it doesn't matter. Anytime you can enroll.
Okay.
Every day it will say that it will start today.
It starts today. Okay.
It's a course conducted by UPenn. And
yes.
It is led by none other than Seligman.
Seligman. Foundations of Positive Psychology.
Right. Okay. So this definition of it's a wise person, there's a typo, is included as the means for us to become wise. And for happy, one needs to be free from binding desires. The one who is completely satisfied with himself, that is the only solution, and not dependent upon any external objects for being happy. This is the first definition. So please study these verses. It means, if possible, meaning the meaning of these verses, contemplate upon that, and understand that this is what the goal of every human being. Like the evolution is going to take me naturally there after some time, but this is the destination. I need to take baby steps right now, because you cannot achieve your complete contentment and happiness. Logically speaking, it is impossible. If somebody else is controlling my happiness, it is impossible. Then I'm subjected to his mercy. And Shankaracharya tells such a person will be freed from Adi Daivika, Adi Bhautika, Adhyatmika Tapa. The problems arises from Adi Bhautika, meaning from the external people, the situations, everything. Adi Devika, the supernatural problem like a tsunami or a earthquake, yeah, you may lose your life, but you still will be strong and stable. This is the prajna. Adhyatmika means anything that comes within you. So these three problems, that is why typically you say Shanti, Shanti, Shanti in our chantings, because you want peace, or means Shanti. Shanti means quietude from all these three sources of problems: Adi Devika, Adi Bhautika, Adhyatmika. So Sthita Prajna is the goal. So 17 more verses. We will continue this next week. So let me hand over to Anu for her chanting. But before that, any questions? This
Yeah,
you
Rajesh.
have a lot of questions.
Okay, just one question. What does the absolute level mean after that observation?
Yeah, absolute level means that is how he is Sthita Prajna. And because, for example, that is the root cause by which he is a Sthita Prajna. Atmani eva atmana tushta. So that is the definition of absolute. And the relative level means when somebody is completely contented with himself, that will be expressed in different characteristics. For example, the next verse is a relative level. So when some tragedy happens, right, because he has the stability, he will be able to respond properly. So not just because somebody is okay to manage a tragedy, that doesn't mean that he is Sthita Prajna. But Sthita Prajna's absolute lakshana is he do not have any binding desires, and he is completely contented with himself. He is not dependent upon anything for his being happy or contented. As a result, he is going to express so many characteristics. Those characteristics are called relative characteristics, but that relative characteristics is because of his absolute nature.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Rajaji, one question. I have always personally struggled with this, that is this knowledge of being a Sthita Prajna or a Jnani appropriate for someone who's just starting out on their careers, or somebody who's just about to appear for his board examination, matriculation, or, because you want them to be ambitious, you want them to be go-getters, you want them to be very, alpha oriented.
Who said, one correction, who said you don't need to be ambitious here?
Because, if you're, I inferred that because
emotionally dependent, right? There is difference between being ambitious and
yes,
being emotionally dependent. So if you really look at Vivekananda, means I'll tell one more story and stop here. Vivekananda was very ambitious. Can you tell? Let me give you one example, story of his life. Vivekananda came to US, and one of his disciples was Alaisingha Perumal. Anybody know him? He's a person from Chennai. He was in Chennai, and Swami Vivekananda used to send him all the paper cuttings of the news coming here in New York. Every lecture he goes, he get a lot of praises. He used to cut all those papers and send to India to this Alaisingha Perumal. And he used to ask Alaisingha Perumal, make sure that this is published. This is published everywhere. So typical action, what is that? He was looking for a fame. That was not the case, because he had realized earlier that as a parivrajaka, he was wandering throughout India. Nobody listened to him. Nobody listened to his words. Only one Raja of Ramnad and Raja of Khatri listened to him. But immediately after coming from USA, the success in USA, the moment he landed from Colombo to Almora, all his travels, he created a huge wave in the country, right? And whereas, means finally when Alaisingha Perumal and Vivekananda had a conversation, Vivekananda said, yeah, it doesn't matter. If it is succeeded, doesn't matter. But I have to put every bit of effort for this message to reach everybody. Is I am dependent upon the result of that? Absolutely not. This is exactly, means, so he was ambitious, he had drive, he was extremely motivated. So the difference is he was completely non-binding, because if it was not happening, still that would not have disturbed Vivekananda. That conversation was very famous. There are a few, if anybody wants, you can go through the letters of Vivekananda and Alaisingha Perumal. It's brilliant. This is one classic example which shows how a man of realization is extremely good. And Krishna talks about this in the Bhagavad Gita. I have more motivation. I do not have anything to achieve, but I work more than any one of you, right? Krishna tells, I continue to work, means 24/7. So that is the common misunderstanding. Like, it's not looking at the life passively. They will be more active and they will be more contented. But right now, let's not think about jnani. Let's try to transform ourselves from a bhogi to a yogi.
Oh, yogi. Yeah.
Because what is the definition of a yogi? Efficiency in action. Yogaha karmasu kaushalam. So let's go by one step at a time.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. So Anu, I think you are starting chapter 1, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Rajesh. But before going that, can anybody would like to try those previous session verses from 48, 49, and so 47, 48, and 50 from chapter 2?
That's
Yes.
very important, right? If you want to learn, you please try to chat in front of this group. That way it will be good, and that will get an opportunity. The only way to chant is practice chanting, right? Chant.
No, I would love to chant, but I'm not sure I will be able to chant properly. So
that's okay, Anabji. So
yeah, please try. No, it's not a problem. Yeah, sure.
okay, sorry, which were the verses? Let me pull them up.
Chapter 2, 47th. What script are you following?
English.
Yeah, from the same resources that I've sent, right? The link that I've shared.
Okay, verse 47. I'll just. Okay. Karmani vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala he turbhur mate sangos tavi karmani. Was that okay?
Yeah, can you do it one more time?
Yeah. Karmani vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phal he turbhur mate sangos tavi karmani.
Okay, it is the second, each shloka has 4 verses or 4 parts. Each part is called a pada. So in the second pada, it is ma phaleshu.
Okay, right. Karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala he turbhur mate sangos tava karmani.
It is ma karma phala heturbhuhu.
Ma karma phala heturbhuhu.
Yeah, because there's a bar on you, on the top of you. That means it's a longer one.
Yes.
And this H follows the previous vowel sound. This is a visarga, ideally speaking. This is a visarga, but in English it is written as H.
Okay.
Okay, H dot. So, ma karma phala heturbhuhu mate sangostva karmani.
Ma karma phala heturbhuhu mate sangos tava karmani.
Yeah, mate sangostva karmani.
Mate sangos tva karmani.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else wants to try the next shloka?
Anu, let me try that.
Yeah.
Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate.
Okay, good. So the third pada, that is siddhya siddhyo, can you say it one more time, Radhika ji.
Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva
Yeah, good.
samatvam
Go ahead, sorry.
samatvam yoga uchyate.
Yeah, just wanted to ensure that BH comes as a Mahaprana with a lot of air out. So, yeah, the second time it came out fine. So, Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Okay, 50th. Anybody else wants to try?
I can try, I know.
Sure, Tina.
Buddhiyukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmat yogaya yujyasva yoga karma sukaushalam.
Good job. So, just to clarify and just to say this R dot is pronounced lightly. Like, okay. Buddhiyukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yujyasva yoga karma sukaushalam. Would you like to try the second pada again?
Is it from tasma, starting with tasmat?
No, you can start from Buddhi Yukta and go till the second one, the Ubhe Sukruta.
Okay. Buddhiyukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite.
Yeah, good. Yeah, you did earlier also fine, but just wanted to tell everyone that is a lighter R. Okay, then could you all get a chance to see the pronunciation guide that I shared?
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions on that?
Sorry, Anu, where did you share it?
In the group, I shared it. So maybe let me pull it up here.
Yeah, I got it. I see it.
Okay, the first page.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the first page. The place of articulation. So the tongue position is given there. So on the last column, the ha, sha, sha, and sa.
So can you share the page on the screen? I don't see that.
Yeah. Can you see that now?
Yes.
So these last column is like this la, ha, sha, and sa. Okay, so I think many of you know the Hindi letters, right? Definitely. Yeah. So these are should be pronounced a little carefully. So when those come in the shlokas, I would ensure that you get clarified. But these are the things that are very important. Yeah.
How do you differentiate between the second sha and the third sha?
Yeah. This one, right?
Yeah, and the one below. Yeah.
The S dash and S dot. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a like, how do you say cha, cha, ja, jha, nya?
Okay. Sure.
Sure. So it is the same, the tongue goes aligned similarly to cha. So, and sha comes out. Okay.
Okay.
And when you say ta, tha, da, dha, na, so your tongue is curled up and touching the middle of the palate.
Oh, okay.
So the second sha should come from that location.
Okay.
Sure. The tongue is curled up when you say ta, tha, da, dha, na.
Right.
So, and when you see this na in this ta, ta, da, dha, na, so this na is a dental sound. It comes, the tongue position is front, right? Closer to the teeth.
Into the teeth. Yeah. No.
So there is a distinct difference between na and na.
Right.
Okay.
No and no. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, and this one, the pa, pha, ba, bha, ma, the pha or the second pha is a mahaprana, so it is said as pha, not as fa or fun, like not as an f sound, but as a pha. Okay. Yeah, this mahaprana is this one, like say ba, the second ba is bha. Okay, all the second ones are more aspirated sounds. So like ka, ga, gha, ja, jha, da, dha, da, dha, ba, bha. Similarly, ka, kha, cha, cha, ta, tha, ta, tha, pa, pha. Okay. Let's go back to chapter 1. You can open, let me post the link. You can open your script that you are convenient with. I'll post this link on the chat window, so you can use your convenient script.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll put the Sanskrit or English version. What do you all say?
Do you have both?
Yeah, I have both.
Then maybe both is good. I'm sure there'll be people who prefer.
No, I'll keep open only one script on the screen.
Sanskrit is fine for me. I don't know about others.
Yeah. Okay.
We are good, Anu, with Sanskrit.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the first chapter.
So the quick question. So is there a Tamil one in that? I don't see in that website.
No, there is no Tamil one right now.
Yeah. Because the problem is the sha, the three types you were saying, right? In Tamil, it's going to be all the same, So,
I know. I heard about Tamil language. Little, I don't know much about it. But if somebody knows both Hindi and Tamil, they would be able to answer correctly.
Yeah.
For Tamil people, I would suggest to use the English script right now.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Particularly certain words. I think with the Tamil script, I can't pronounce at all.
Yeah, I think for the Tamil people, see, if you are, there is a Kannada script shared here, English, Sanskrit, and Telugu. But if your native local mother tongue is not available, then use the English script. That way it is easier.
Yeah.
Because if you are using a different script, then you may not know. Sometimes there might be like first and two padas might be mixed up with sandhi. You may not understand what it is. So
right. Because I have a Tamil book, and whereas the English one seems like better.
Yeah, I think so everybody who are Tamil people use the English script, and I think you can, or they will agree if you are comfortable with Hindi.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Prathamodhyayah Arjuna Vishada Yogaha. Okay. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Can somebody volunteer to say it, repeat after me? Or I can do, but it would be nice if somebody can repeat.
Do you want us to repeat in a chorus?
Chorus is also fine, but if one person can repeat, that would be clear for everyone.
Okay.
Anu, I'm sorry, like just before we start, I'm trying to get that whatever you're, the first one, the English I opened, but then whatever you're repeat saying right now, is it there? Because I don't see, I just see Om Paramatma Namaha, then after that it's different, like, I don't know, like, I don't read, I don't know, understand Sanskrit, probably if you can open the English, then.
Mm-hmm.
Would anybody want to try to repeat after me? Can anybody try?
Yeah, no, this is Sarita. I can do that.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha.
Atha Prathamodhyayah.
Atha Prathamodhyayah.
Atha Prathamodhyayah.
Atha Prathamodhyayah.
Arjuna Vishada Yogaha.
Arjuna Vishada Yogaha.
Arjuna Vishada Yogaha.
Arjuna Vishada Yogaha.
This S dot is the second sha, comes out from, ta, tha, da, dha, na, or it comes, the tongue should be curling up and touching the middle of the palate.
Vishada.
Arjuna Vishada Yogaha.
Arjuna Vishada Yogaha.
Dhritarashtra Uvacha.
Dhritarashtra Uvacha.
Dhritarashtra Uvacha.
Dhritarashtra Uvacha.
All DH, anything, H, DH are Mahaprana, so you have to say it little forcefully. Dhritarashtra Uvacha.
Dhritarashtra Uvacha.
Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre.
Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre.
Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre.
Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre.
Samaveta Yuyutsavaha.
Samaveta Yuyutsavaha.
Samaveta Yuyutsavaha.
Samaveta Yuyutsavaha.
Mamakaः Pandavaschaiva.
Mamaka Pandavaschaiva.
Here in the English script, the H, that this is a visarga in any language, H and P. H following the P would be an F sound. So it is Mamakaः Pandavaschaiva.
Mamaka Pandavaschaiva.
Mamakaः Pandavaschaiva
Mamaka Pandavaschaiva
Kimakurvata Sanjaya
Kimakurvata Sanjaya
Kimakurvata Sanjaya
Kimakurvata Sanjaya
Dhritarashtra Uvacha
Dhritarashtra Uvacha
Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta
Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyulsavaha
Yuyutsavaha
Yuyutsavaha
Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha
Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyulsavaha
Mamakaः Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya
Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya
Mamakaः Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya
Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya.
It is Pandavaschaiva. It is an A bar, which is a longer sound than A. So it is Mamakaः Pandavaschaiva
Mamaka Pandavaschaiva
Kimakurvata Sanjaya
Kimakurvata Sanjaya.
Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamakaः Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya
Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya.
Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamakaः Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya
Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya.
Yeah. Can you say the first pada again? Dharma.
Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mama.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, please go. Continue.
Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya.
All the lines on the top of the letters, they make a longer sound.
Okay.
And H after P, P after H would make gives an F sound. Mamakaः Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya.
Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya.
Okay. Can we move on to the next one? Yeah. Can anyone try repeating after me?
I will try, Anand.
Yeah. Okay. Sanjaya Uvacha.
Sanjaya Uvacha.
Sanjaya Uvacha.
Sanjaya Uvacha.
Društva tu Pandavanikam.
Društva tu Pandavanikam.
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा
व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा
व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा
व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा.
It is the Vyudham Duryodhanastada Tada.
Got it. Vyudham duryodhanastada
Acharyamupasangamya
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 Raja Vachanamabravit
Raja vachanamabravit
Raja Vachanamabravit
Raja vachanamabravit
Sanjaya Uvacha
Sanjaya uvacha
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकं व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा
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 आचार्यमुपसङ्गम्य राजा वचनमब्रवीत्
आचार्यमुपसंगम्य राजा वचनमब्रवीत्
आचार्यमुपसङ्गम्य राजा वचनमब्रवीत्
आचार्यमुपसंगम्य राजा वचनमब्रवीत्
सञ्जय उवाच दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकं व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा
संजय उवाच दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकं व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा
सञ्जय उवाच दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकं व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा
संजय उवाच दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकं व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा
आचार्यमुपसङ्गम्य राजा वचनमब्रवीत्
आचार्यमुपसंगम्य राजा वचनमब्रवीत्
आचार्यमुपसङ्गम्य राजा वचनमब्रवीत्
आचार्यमुपसंगम्य राजा वचनमब्रवीत्
सञ्जय उवाच दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकं व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा आचार्यमुपसङ्गम्य राजा वचनमब्रवीत्
संजय उवाच दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकं व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा Acharyamupasangam Raja Vachanam Abravit.
Okay, can you repeat first two lines? Can you try one more time? First two lines.
Sanjaya
Okay.
Sanjaya Uvacha Dhruštva tu Pandavanekam Vyudham Duryodhanastada.
Vyudham Duryodhanastada.
Vyudham Duryodhanastada.
Sanjaya Uvacha Drushtva tu Pandavanekam Vyudham Duryodhanastada Acharyamupasangam Raja Vachanam Abravit.
Sanjaya Uvacha Dhruštva tu Pandavanekam Vyudham Duryodhanastada Acharyamupasangam Raja Vachanam Abravit.
So, anybody else wants to try the third one?
Anuji, one person. Just when you say Vyudham, that is also DH there, right? But then Duryodhanastada, that is DH dha come, right? So, I mean, is it?
There is a the and DH is a dha.
Yeah, okay.
There are two das, right? In Sanskrit, one is
Okay.
dha and one is dha, dhanam.
Okay.
Okay. So the second one's yeah.
The Vyudham has a dot beneath the DH. So what is that dot?
Maybe that is what the differentiation probably is, just to say the dha and then because it is.
This is This is no, I don't. Yeah. This is the. This is this without the dot. It is the. With the dot, it is the.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that makes good. Thank you so much.
So DH dot DH is the. This is the.
The. Yeah.
So I think this notation is slowly you will get familiarized. Yeah. Those, yeah. Anybody else wants to repeat?
Sure, I can do it, Anuji.
Yeah. Pashyaitam Panduputranam.
Pashyaitam Panduputranam.
Pashyaitam Panduputranam.
Pashyaitam Panduputranam.
Acharya Mahatim Chamum.
Acharya Mahatim Chamum.
Acharya Mahatim Chamum.
Acharya Mahatim Chamum.
Vyudham Drupada Putrena.
Vyudham Drupada Putrena.
Vyudham Drupada Putrena.
Vyudham Drupada Putrena.
Tava Shishyena Dhimata.
Tava Sishyena Dhimata.
Tava Shishyena Dhimata.
Tava Sishyena Dhimata.
Yeah. If you have noticed, this is an S line and this is an S dot. So this is comes from the, this is like cha, the sh, okay? Shiva. This is sha. It goes more deeper. The tongue curls up and touches the middle of the palate. So shishyena.
Okay.
And yeah. Pashyaitam Panduputraणाम् Acharya-mahatim chamum.
Pashyaitam Panduputraणाम् Acharya-mahatim chamum.
Pashyaitam Panduputraणाम् Acharya-mahatim chamum.
Pashyaitam Panduputraणाम् Acharya-mahatim chamum.
Vyudham Drupada-putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata.
Vyudham Drupadaputrena Tava Sishyena Dhimata.
Vyudham Drupada-putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata.
Vyudham Drupadaputrena Tava Sishyena Dhimata.
Pashyaitam Panduputraणाम् Acharya-mahatim chamum. Vyudham Drupada-putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata.
Pashyaitam Panduputraणाम् Acharya-mahatim chamum. Vyudham Drupadaputrena Tava Sishyena Dhimata.
Pashyaitam Panduputraणाम् Acharya-mahatim chamum. Vyudham Drupada-putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata.
Pashyaitam Panduputraणाम् Acharya-mahatim chamum. Vyudham Drupadaputrena Tava Sishyena Dhimata.
Pashyaitam Panduputraणाम् Acharya-mahatim chamum. Vyudham Drupada-putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata.
Pashyaitam Panduputraणाम् Acharya-mahatim chamum. Vyudham Drupadaputrena Tava Sishyena Dhimata.
Okay. So now I'll just repeat all the three shlokas a couple times. Yeah. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Prathamodhyayah Arjuna Vishada Yogaha. Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta-yuyutsavaha Mamakaः Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. Sanjaya Uvacha Drushtva tu Pandavanikam Vyudham Duryodhanastada Acharyamupasangamya Raja Vachanamabravit. Pashyaitam Panduputraणाम् Acharya-mahatim chamum. Vyudham Drupada-putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Prathamodhyayah Arjuna Vishada Yogaha. Dhritarashtra Uvacha धर्मक्षेत्रे कुरुक्षेत्रे समवेतायुत्सवः मामकाः पाण्डवाश्चैव किमकुर्वत सञ्जय सञ्जय उवाच दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम् यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा आचार्यमुपसङ्गम्य राजा वचनमब्रवीत् पश्येतां पाण्डुपुत्राणाम् आचार्यमहतीं च मूं व्यूढां द्रुपदपुत्रेण तव शिष्येण धीमता. So any questions? Or I would say if you can repeat each shloka at least 3 to 5 times each day, when we meet again next week, you would be very fluent, and that way at least if you have any corrections I can correct, and it will slowly you'll get there too. You're already good, maybe small things, but the fluency would improve if you repeat every day 3 to 5 times each shloka. Okay, that's the only key, and listening to them. All right.
Thank you, Anu. This is fantastic. I feel very blessed to be able to chant like this.
Yeah. Thank you for joining. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Any questions? I'll also try and see what I can provide on more on pronunciation. But I think that guide, the Chinmaya Mission's guide, is a beautiful one. But I'll also see what else can clarify us more. Okay.
Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Rajashri. I think I did it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.